Okay, friends, we're back here. This is part 2 of World War I videos, and you've got your third pages of notes ready. This is going to be why the U.S. entered the war. So you remember our last slide ended with the U-boats. Remember those, because those are going to be important. All right, so the United States this whole first video was all about what it was like in Europe, other European countries. But what about us here in the United States? What were we doing? We had an isolationism policy. We believed that each country had to handle their own affairs. We wanted to be neutral. We wanted to get along with everybody. We didn't want to fight. We wanted to be out of the war, all right? But obviously, it's going to be near impossible for us to do that. So on May 7th, 1915, this is the first strike, all right? A German submarine, a U-boat, torpedoed and sank the British steamship, the Lusitania. Now, more than 100 U.S. citizens were killed. Not army men, not people in the military, not people fighting in the war, just regular old citizens, just regular old people that were just happened to be on the ship were killed because of this war. So we're going to be very upset that our people had died because of this. At this point in time, it was the largest ship in the world, all right? And when it was struck down, it was a really big deal. You can see that here's the New York Times. Lusitania sunk by a submarine, probably 1,260 dead. All right, sank in 15 minutes. The captain was saved, but Vanderbilt is missing. Washington, not George Washington, Washington, D.C., believes that a grave crisis is at hand. So we're seeing, okay, this is a problem. Like they're willing to attack citizens now. We're on high alert. Right, here's a picture of a sinking boat, and again, this is called Patience. The latest submarine victim may be the last, meaning, all right, they are sinking ships, and our patience is also sinking. Our patience with these other countries that are trying to hurt people. All right, step 2 is the Zimmerman note. It is going to be a telegram that was sent from Germany to Mexico, asking Mexico, Mexico is the country directly below us, to join the war on the side of the Central Powers. Germany promised to help Mexico gain back land in the United States. You remember how we talked about how we got all of our land and how we had a war with Mexico? So Germany was thinking, well, if we send this note, then maybe Mexico will help us take over the United States. And if they do that, well, then we'll give them some land back. Well, we intercept the note. You can see you got joined with Germany and you get a bit of the United States. So they're trying. You've got the German talking to the Mexican man here saying, come on, be on our side. We intercept it as a telegram. Notice how it's numbers, all right? And we're able to figure out exactly what it says. And it's not good. It's not good because we are very upset, all right, about what happened. We intend to begin on the 1st of February unrestricted submarine warfare. We shall endeavor, in spite of all this, to keep the United States of America neutral. In the event of this not succeeding, we make Mexico a proposal of alliance on the following basis. Make more together, make peace together, generous financial support, and on understanding on our part that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The settlement in detail is left to you. You will inform the President of the above most secretly as soon as the outbreak of war with the United States of America is certain, and add the suggestion that he should, on his own initiative, invite Japan to immediate adherence, at the same time mediate between Japan and ourselves. Please call the President's attention to the fact that the ruthless employment of our submarines now offers the prospect of compelling England in a few months to make peace, right? Zimmerman, right? So this is going to be saying, fight with us, all right? We'll give you back that land. All right, so after all these events, after, thinking, all right, well, the Germans are going to try to give the Mexican people our land. Lusitania has been sunk. We know that people are dying in the trenches in Europe. Do you think that America should have joined already or not? How about sending me a message? Let me know what you think. But finally, the third strike is the fact that on March 19th, March 1917, Germany attacked 3 American trade ships. and kill members on board. Remember, a trade ship is not necessarily a military ship. A trade ship is going to have goods that people are trying to sell. Regular old people are trying to sell the goods they're making in America to the people in Europe. So why would Germany attack such a ship? Where were the ship? What were they probably carrying? Do you think they were carrying farmed goods? No, they were probably carrying things to England and France, things like military weapons, like guns and cannons and tanks, and maybe things to help with their planes. And because the United States has been trying to help without sending goods, military goods, without actually sending men, all right? So after they sink these things and we realize that we've lost now our goods, we've lost our men, on April 16th, 1917, Congress declared war on Germany. So we are now in 1917, finally a part of World War I, all right? So when we finally came into the war, we've got a lot more men going into those trenches, a lot more men fighting. More than 4 million American soldiers, sailors, and Marines fought in World War I. It dramatically increased the strength because you've got men that haven't had trench foot, that haven't been living in trenches for years. They're fresh. They are strong because they haven't been fighting for so long. And we're really able to help enforce the end of the war here. You've got some American units here as the picture. Obviously, you can see the muddy ground where they would be walking there. This is kind of the story of two different Americans that were very prominent. This is Eddie Rickenbacker. He was the first U.S. fighter pilot. He shot down 22 German planes and 4 observation balloons. Then you've got Alvin C. York, and he took out 35 German machine guns on his own. York and 10 other Americans returned with 132 prisoners. So that video is really cool about his life. He's a super inspiring man that you can listen to. What happened at home? What about the women that were at home? You're going to see a major difference in what was happening in the American people. All right, they're going to sing songs. They're going to give money to the Red Cross that is going to be able to buy food and medical supplies for the soldiers. You're going to have war gardens. People are going to start planting goods and giving away food to help people that need it. You're going to government encourage people to eat less. So they were trying to say, okay, you don't need all this stuff. Let's send what we can to our boys overseas. But you're also going to see for the first time women going to work in factories. The men had lost their jobs because they were going overseas. So to replace those jobs, they needed the women to go in and make the weapons, make the tanks, make ammunition to send to the men fighting overseas. And you also see that African Americans are also going to take over the jobs that the men had left behind because they were fighting. Major events, okay? So now, finally, 1918, Russia and Germany are going to sign a treaty. The war is almost over. The treaty works in Germany's favor, but it also hurts Germany because they used soldiers to enforce the treaty, which took away from their fighting power. They could not win in France. So, November 11th, 1918, Germany signs Treaty of Surrender. November 11th, big deal, Veterans Day, right? We read about that in our book. We celebrate November 11th every year as we remember the end of World War I, and we remember all of our military that has ever fought. Any veteran at all, we honor them on November 11th. In January of 1919, President Wilson and other Allied leaders met in Versailles, France, to draw up the treaty. The treaty is called the Treaty of Versailles. So notice they're going to be in Paris, and Versailles is right here, right? So Allied leaders are going to work together to draft the peace treaty, and you've got 2 videos that you can watch about that. And then you've got the League of Nations. Woodrow Wilson came up with the idea for the League of Nations. He wanted to create a plan that would avoid a future world war. He worked to make it as fair as possible for all nations, right? So, he wanted them to work together to keep another war from happening. But we actually never became a member of the League of Nations, even though Woodrow Wilson worked hard to convince Congress to do that. The Treaty of Versailles made Germany pay heavy fines and did not let it rebuild much of its army. Think about this. If you are told that you have to pay a ton of money for something that, to pay back something that you've already used or something that you already did, and you can't ever have extra money to buy things that you want, you're going to be very poor. And that's going to really affect Germany over the next 20 years. And when we start talking about World War II, we're going to remember this. We're going to remember that they had to pay these certainly heavy fines because it really affected the people. All right? It really affected the people. When they were poor, it affected how they were going to elect their next leader, and it affected what they had in their homes. Okay? President Wilson didn't agree with all the opponents of the Treaty of Versailles. He thought it was too tough. He thought that, they shouldn't have to pay that. They shouldn't have to pay as hard and sacrifice so much for their own people. All right, so you can listen to more about that in that video there. And like we just said, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And we're going to talk about that when we get to World War II. All right, my friends, that is the end of this video. Make sure you've got your notes pages all filled out and that you go on to Class Dojo and say, yes, I have watched these videos, and ask me any questions you might have. Thanks, friends.